Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero. It is Thursday, and we're talking about freedom in the boardroom because this topic this month is about freedom. How do we go over and get freedom in our lives from the bedroom to the boardroom? And today is our last day about freedom in the boardroom. And I wanted to start from it from a different perspective to go over and to shift our minds because you probably know the old saying, change is inevitable. People had said it even before 2020 went crazy, but 2020 took that motto on. No Snickers, no Red Bull. There's nothing that could go over and be given to this year to go over and to help it simmer down. So 2020 forgot to eat the Snickers. It forgot to go and do all those types of things. So change is inevitable is almost every hour. It's like the next tweet, the next thing that goes over and happens. We need to get our mental protein on to deal with 2020 because if we're not getting our protein in our diets on a regular basis, we are lacking. So now we need to get our mental protein on to deal with 2020. So our mindset, and which we're going to be talking about today, our mindset is the way to get this party started. So we're going to go over what mindset is today and some tips and some tactics from a very influential website called Ink.com that went over and inspired this post in this live. And if you haven't had a chance to go over and gamify your podcast, I'd highly recommend you go over and watching the replay of this in Podopolo, where you can go gamify your podcast, where investors go over and pay you to go over and to watch and to engage with us. So, what is mindset? Well, from the old definition, mindset is a set of assumptions, methods, and notions held by someone. We all have our mindsets. What do we think about things? What do we think about work? What do we think about play? What do we think about when going into the boardroom? What do we think about how work should be done? Are we more task oriented? Are we more people oriented? Do we stay in one place or stay in another? And we have a choice to go over and to go from one or two directions. We've had this pre 2020, and this is definitely now we're in the kind of the post 2020 in a sense. The year hasn't ended, but it sure feels that way, doesn't it? That we have two choices in this. We can either choose a fixed mindset that says, I'm going to stay locked in my ways and just wait for things to simmer down and go back to the normal, or we can grow in a growth mindset and go over and embrace these changes. Even though we didn't want it, no one wants anybody to go over and die. We don't want to have race disparities. Everybody, we want all people to be connected and growing or not, but we have these things happening. And change is inevitable, and change is on the table, and everything else. So we can either choose to stay fixed and try to stay locked into what it was pre 2020, or are we going to go jump into what is now 2020 and beyond and go into a growth mindset? So today is all about growth mindset. That's where we're focusing on. And the suggestions for you to go and shift, for I to go over and shift in this modality to be growth. Because if you're in a boardroom in 2020, everything is shifting in general. So why not go over and start making the shift now to make it easier so you can go over and thrive? There's no freedom in the boardroom when you stay fixed in our mindsets. So Ink.com again went over and inspired this talk. And if you want to find out more information, you go look up the 12 mind shifts to go over and to find out more. We're only going to be listing about 8 of them in this talk to shift your boardroom life to the positive. And again, go to Ink.com to go find out the rest. So let's go jump into them. First off, one of the things that most people started a long time ago and actually has been going and rising, and maybe you haven't visited us all, is to meditate or pray. So meditate means to get our minds focused, get our minds clear, to go over and think on the positives, to go over and to actually focus. That's what meditate is a focused way to go set for the day. People do it in the morning, people do it in the evening, some people do it with yoga, some people do it with exercise, some people go over and do it with music. There's apps of many sorts that you can go over and use. I'm trying to look them up real quick. Abide is the Christian app to go take meditation and prayer and put it together. And there's also an app called Calm, which is an app you can go over and use to go over and do that. There's several others across the board. We'd love to go hear your comments if you have any great resources on meditation, prayer, or any mindset shifts. Let's go check the comments before we go into our next mindset shift. Sarah says, hello. Thank you for going over, enjoying, and being consistently in our lives. Thank you very much. All right. Going to number 2 is make personal development a priority. When we were in the boardroom pre-2020, the workflow went over and put personal development as a priority. And you guys probably went to some of my seminars and workshops when I used to work with Fred Pryor training seminars. There's also Skill Path and many other companies. But nowadays, we're here virtual in the boardrooms, and some of us are going back, but businesses are going to still probably take another 6 to 18 months before they start putting personal development as a priority. So a mindset shift is making that personal development priority. Maybe it's going over and listening to a podcast. Maybe it's going over and doing a meditation. Maybe it's going over and reading a book. Maybe you don't read books. You can go and listen to audiobooks or go over and follow someone else's podcast that's going over and written a book. Or maybe you just go over and you say, these are the things I want to go work through, and you check them off on a list. Like, hey, I want to work through this emotion or this feeling or this thought pattern or this assumption. A way to go over and make that mindset shift is to make personal development a priority. Because when we wait for people to go over and either challenge us in personal development, or we wait for the business to go over and do it, most of the time we're not ready for it, and it's kind of, we're on the cusp of it being too late. So to go over and take that mind shift of growth, make personal development a priority. Let's go check the comments to see if there's any other engagement. Chris goes over and says, hello, thanks you for joining. Thank you for going over and listening. You are one of our new guests, and we very much appreciate you coming. All right. Going from there, mind shift number 3, start the day by noticing 3 positive changes each day. We have 70,000 thoughts a day, and a lot of times we don't point out the positive. We either point out the neutral or we point out the negative, especially when we're in the boardroom environment. And if the boardroom environment is negative, we tend to get into the negative, all the things that we go over and do. So why not go start the day when you go wake up? Instead of just going over and jumping on your social media feed or going to the nearest video or whatever, maybe take that time after you maybe do meditation or prayer to go over and notice those 3 positive changes each day that you went over and made. Because we all make changes. And as we go over and make that mind shift, if we don't identify those, if we don't accept them in here in our mind and then say them out loud that our heart goes over and believes them, we typically won't live them out. That's why a lot of the times we tend to go back to our bad habits, is because we don't point them out. We have to go over and start ourselves to talk about it, to accept it, to embrace it. So why not point out the 3 positive changes that you went over and made each day? And if you notice positive changes in other people's lives, you can start the trend by passing it on, to pass on this growth mindset. Let's go check comments again. It's pretty lively today. Sarah says, this is an area I need to be better at. That's fantastic. We all need to be better at that. All right, going to number 4, focus on the long-term vision. 2020 wrecked probably most of our visions. I had a vision for 25 shows under me. I had a vision of getting up to $4,000 passive at that particular goal. And then within the next couple of years is to get to full time of going over and doing this and getting produced and everything else. And COVID, everything else, our whole entire economy and our lives went over and changed. And the majority of the time, I'm going to my military job and then coming here and going over and teaching you guys. If I go look at the short term, that is a fixed mindset. We're screwed. We're never going to go make it. No one's ever going to go over and close anything else. I need to look at the long-term vision. I see ourselves in 2025 at 125 shows with military veterans and first responders that are going over and changing the script and getting the message out there. So as I go and focus on that long-term vision and I take those steps inch by inch, that's going to keep me in that growth mindset and to go over and to spread that message. And when I'm positive, and I go focus on long-term vision, and you are positive and focus on long-term vision, the vision happens. Visions go over and happen when it's positive and you're consistent and persistent, and you're looking towards that long-term vision, not just a short-term goal. So that's another way to go and change your mindset. Number 5, get the outside perspective from trusted sources. Again, 2020 needs a Snickers, and you can go look at all the other things and look exactly maybe where you're at, and that negative fixed mindset can come in. Have somebody that you trust, mentors, people in your business. Maybe it's your supervisor, maybe it's maybe it's a spouse, or maybe it's a mentor that's outside of your work. Maybe it's your coach, maybe it's your consultant, whoever it is. Get that outside perspective from trusted resources, and make sure that when these trusted resources, they should be faithful in your life, available in your life, teachable, that they pass information on, and then you can go over and connect back with them, and they're overall a servant. Those people are usually trusted resources because they have good facts. So when you get the outside perspective from trusted sources, that's a growth mindset. They will tell you what things that maybe you should go over and pivot, or what you should go over and flank, or maybe even doing a total about face in that particular regard. And when they have earned that trust, and then they're faithful in your life, available, teachable, and servant in your life, then those outside perspectives are worthwhile. And then you truly become free to go over and change. I just had some great wisdom from one of our followers that went over and told me a new strategy to pivot. And he's eventually, as I see him, he'll grow as a trusted source. But that outside perspective is very much fruitful. Again, if you give the outside perspective of untrusted sources, it might be a little harder because they haven't given that trust yet. But outside perspective from trusted resources is going to help you grow and to break that fixed mindset. Sarah Winterman said, haven't heard it said like that, but you are spot on. Maybe a box of Snickers. I agree, a box of Snickers. Maybe it just needs to get to the factory and just have taken over. 2020 just needs to get a mouth and start eating. All right. Tactic number 6 from Ink.com, or mindset shifts. I'm used to saying tactics. Number 6, accept the change will happen with or without you. You ever heard that song, with or without you? It's the same thing with change. With or without you, it's going to happen. Oh, so you might as well go over and accept the change. Oh, yeah, because it's going to do it with or without you. So we need to go. 2020 did not go over and ask us and say, hey, COVID, hey, shutdown, hey, businesses going under, hey, people coming home, working virtual, kids staying at home, maybe potentially going into year 2. Didn't ask. So we're in it. It's okay to vent, but we need to accept the change, because with or without you, it's going to happen. So you might as well go over and accept the change. Going from there, number 7, make yourself vulnerable to others. Again, this is more of a trusted person. So to have that growth mindset, you can't grow if you don't be vulnerable, you don't be transparent, you're not sharing with those people. You want to make sure it's the right people. You don't want to be vulnerable to everybody. Now, there's certain times and certain places. You go jump on the stage and you're singing a song. You're going over and build your confidence, great. You're going to go over and do a TED Talk, great. Those are places to have vulnerable moments. But don't go over and just throw your vulnerability at anybody. This vulnerability has to be people and places and situations there. If you're totally locked off in a wall, doesn't go over and work if you're locked all the time. If you're totally vulnerable with everybody, you're just spewing, and it's really scary. So balance that out, but you need to go over and not lock up and not go over and be like, yeah, got to balance in between. So make yourself vulnerable to others. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's a high school buddy that you've been connected with throughout the years. I know for my wife, she goes over and she has certain people in her life that she makes herself vulnerable. And as COVID goes over and expands, I would follow the model of the 1275,000. This is what I'm going to start following. Jesus had 12 disciples, 70 main followers, and then he has 5,000. I'm not trying to get biblical here, but I see it as a great model. Those 12 people were in the inner sanctum, most vulnerable, most transparent, most in depth of teaching, continuing following. 70 people, okay, partially vulnerable, going over and sharing and whatnot. The 5,000, they were here and they were not here. The deep part of him didn't go out to any of those people as much as the 12. So the same thing as making yourself vulnerable to others. Choose those core people. You're going to make yourself vulnerable to make that most amount of growth. And then as the crowds are trickling away and the bigger groups like this virtual group, in a sense, I'm not going to go pour my entire life on and die for the people that are in the masses. I might go over and give of my life and give of myself, but I'm not going to put myself vulnerable in front of everybody because it's not edifying for everybody. And that's the same thing. So it's got to be a balance in between. So my personal model for 2020 is I'm going to be vulnerable and transparent with the 12 most important people / families that are going to be involved. The 70 people, I'm going to be mildly vulnerable, professionally wise. And then the 5,000, yeah, they might know a thing or two. That's about it. And they'll get to glean off the wisdom wherever I'm sharing. So that's my recommendation on that one. A little off topic, but it's okay sometimes. All right. And the last one, and again, there's more. You should go to ink.com to look at all 12 of them, and especially from their perspective. They come from the business perspective. They are the subject matter experts. I thought it was fantastic on what they over and listed. So I only listed 8 because to get you to engage. Woo! There you go. So number 8. Eliminate your sunk cost mindset. Now, this is more for if your actual boardroom life is from the investor point of view, you're spending in finances and things and whatnot. So this sunk cost mindset is pretty much this in a nutshell. We get all fearful, so we don't go over and spend, or we've had bad times that we've gone over and spent and invested, and then we totally lock up and they're always concerned and we never do nothing. Again, from the number 6, you have to accept the changes with or without you. So things are going to go over and happen. So we need to go over and not just be in fear and do nothing. But we don't go over and do it stupid and invest into everything. There's a lot of opportunities, especially during these pandemic seasons that come out, and a lot of businesses could emerge for the next 10 or 15 years. That's how Uber came out in 2008. It was a little bit after that. Uber came out and Airbnb and all these other businesses. But we have to go do it smartly. We can't just stay locked down to go over and let our fixed mindset says never to invest and never go from the exact opposite, from a sunk cost to going over and saying, I'm going to invest everything and expect total ROI back tenfold. We got to be realistic. A growth mindset goes over and says, hey, I'm not going to stay locked down in one position or another, because we will fail at things, but we are never a failure. We talked about this week about fail. Nope, we talked about that on our live. So if not our live, our TV show, we do so much content sometimes. So if you want to go hear more about failure, go over and visit the Easy Way Network, our Wednesday episode. It is live, going over in Freedom in the Boardroom, how to go thrive in failure. This is probably one of our concepts that we talked about. Actually, I'm pretty confident is that failure is first attempt in life. Failure doesn't go over and dictate you. So the sunk cost mindset says that you're allowing that moment or those transactions to go over and dictate you. Growth mindset says, hey, I'm going to fail. It's going to happen, especially if I've never done it before. The first attempt at life, but we're never a failure. That word should not be associated with you. That's how you break mindset in that regard. So that is it for today. Kind of short, right? But hopefully powerful to go over and have. Always, we have a superhero challenge at the end of this. Our superhero challenge is, where do you sit in mindset? Be a little vulnerable. We're not asking you to go cornucopia, drop out everything. Your choice if you do. Fixed or growth. And then once you determine where you're truly at, where do you sit? What mindset shift do you need to make in 2020? It is June 16, I think. Yeah, because 18th, I think, on Saturday. It's June 16th, and we are halfway through the year. What mindset shift are you going to make in 2020? Share it on social media. And if you want to gamify this share, go on our podcast by taking the conversation to Podopolo. Podopolo is a continually engaging place that you can engage with your favorite podcasters. You can go over and win awesome rewards and go over and actually take your podcast to the next level. Instead of just listening, that you're interacting and growing. That's where Podopolo's at. So if you want to gamify that, go over and go into the conversation and share that out. So we love to go over and connect with you. Again, if you're going over and struggling in the boardroom, we always give 20 minutes free to every military veteran and first responder. The first 20 minutes is free. And if you want to gamify not gamify your life in the sense of like gamify and transform from war hero to superhero, and you want to take it to the next level, go hit patreon.com/thrive-not-survive. As low as $5 a month, 1 cup of Starbucks. It's probably half a cup of Starbucks. They probably went skyrocketing. But anyway, as low as a cup to half a cup of Starbucks, you can go over and become a superhero in your marriage and go from there. Let's go check out the comments, and then we're going to go over and punch out. So, yep, July, not June. Yeah, I forgot it was June. See, I got so excited. It is July 16th. That's the pros and cons of doing a live show. Sometimes the mind lets go. But yeah, July 16th. We're over the halfway hump. So what changes are you going to go make? Because June's over. So, well, we want to thank you for going over and joining. Again, we'd love to go over and connect with you soon. Again, you guys can go over and contact us on your favorite social media. And you can also go over and see this live on the Easy Way wall. So we hope you have a great day. And again, if you're watching this on the replay, go to Podopolo and go gamify that podcast. Don't just take the information, just sit there. Because if you do, it's just hurting you. That's it. All right. Have a good day. All right.